The rabbis were in Medina, and the Quraysh sent a delegation to find out from them, how can we tell whether this man, Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, is indeed a prophet? The rabbis had asked him 3 questions, which only a prophet can answer. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending the answers to the 3 questions. One of the questions was, ask him about the great traveler. Ask him about the great traveler who traveled to the 2 ends of the world. So with question 1, ask him about the great traveler who traveled to the 2 ends of the earth. And we are told that this traveler is called Zulqarnain, the one who possesses 2 qarns. And qarn can mean a horn, so qarnain will be 2 horns. And qarn could also be an age or an epoch, a time. So qarnain will be 2 ages. So this is a man who is either of 2 horns or impacts upon 2 ages. قُلْ سَأَتْلُ عَلَيْكُم مِّنْهُ ذِكْرًا. I am going to tell you something about him which must be remembered. إِنَّا مَكَّنَّا لَهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَآتَيْنَاهُ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ سَبَبًا. Behold, we established him on earth securely, with the power and with the means, with the capacity and the knowledge and the right means to achieve anything that he might set out to achieve. And so surely a superpower, not an ordinary power, a superpower. فَأَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا. And so he chose the right means now to do what he wanted to do. حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ مَغْرِبَ الشَّمْسِ. He sets out on a journey to the west. And he reaches a place where the sun is setting. And there he found it setting in a body of water that was hamiyah, dark, murky, so visibility in that water will be very shallow. And there he came across a people. Is it possible for us to identify that body of water? If we can, we'll be on the way to locating the geographical location of the area in which we're talking about. We're going to do that in a moment, inshallah. Then Zulqarnain set off on the 2nd journey now, and he's going to the rising of the sun. And when he had traveled to the distance that he could travel, the Quran does not tell us how far it was, he came upon a people, لَمْ نَجْعَلْ مِن دُونِهَا سِتْرًا. A people, لَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُمْ مِن دُونِهَا سِتْرًا. We have not provided for them as a covering other than this covering. It appears to us that it is the natural covering that you have from the sunshine. So a people living a primitive way of life. And he left them as they were. And then he went on to the 3rd journey, which is verse number 92. And so now he travels in the 3rd direction. إِذَا بَلَغَ بَيْنَ السَّدَّيْنِ. He comes to a place between a pass between 2 mountain ranges. On this side are mountains, on this side are mountains. And in between there is a pass. Can we locate Geographically, where are we talking about? Is it possible? A pass between two mountain ranges. And there he came across a people, لا يكادون يفقهون قولا. He came across a people whose language he could not understand, because their language was unique. Their language had no connections with other language in that region. It was a language which was not connected with all the other languages in that region. When they had learned to communicate with each other, then these people spoke to Zulkarnain and said to him, Ya Zulkarnain, O Zulkarnain, Inna Ya'juj wa Ma'juj mufsiduna fil ard. Gog and Magog are committing acts of fasad in our territory. So Gog and Magog have PhDs in fasad. O Zulkarnain, can you help us? You have the power. Can you build a barrier to protect us from these people? He should have said, I don't need to build any barrier. I'll move in there and I'll beat them up, and they won't touch you anymore. So I don't need to build any barrier. I'll go and teach them a lesson they'll never forget. But no, he didn't say that. They said, we're prepared to pay you. He said, I don't need your money. What Allah has given to me is more valuable. So he agreed to build the barrier. What I need from you is your labor. Help me with your manpower. And I'm going to build a barrier between you. Now number 96, verse number 96. Bring me blocks of iron. And so that has to be a geographical location where there's iron ore. It has to be a geographical location where there are mountain ranges and a pass between the mountain ranges. It has to be a geographical location where on the left you have a body of water which is so dark and murky that visibility is very shallow, okay? And it has to be an area where there are large deposits of iron ore. Bring me blocks of iron. And after he had covered the pass with blocks of iron, he said, build a furnace, blow with your bellows, and now bring me molten copper. So he poured the molten copper, and the engineers, we have an engineer here, tells me that this is to prevent rust. And after he had built the barrier and covered it, the Quran speaks, it changes from the word saddain to use another word, sadafain, in verse number 95. آتوني زبر الحديد حتى إذا ساوى بين الصدفين. Previously the word used was saddain, but now the word used is sadafain. Saddain is two barriers, two mountain ranges, but sadafain is something else. It is like the two sides of a shell. We're going to have some pictures like this now. The two sides of a shell. You've been to the seashore. When you open a shell like this, it will join at the bottom, but open at the top. That's the shape of the pass between the mountains. Join at the bottom, open at the top. So when he had blocked off this space, this sadafain, now the molten copper is put on it, and then Gog and Magog could neither scale the barrier nor could they penetrate it, so they're now trapped behind the barrier. And so Zulkarnain now says, هَذَا رَحْمَةُ مِنْ رَبِّي. This barrier is constructed in consequence of Allah's kindness and grace. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي. But when that time comes of which my word has warned, إِذَا فُتِحَتْ They will not return to reclaim the town as their own until إِذَا فُتِحَتْ, until Gog and Magog are released. When that time comes for Gog and Magog to be released, so that Banu Israel are to be brought back to the Holy Land, جِئْنَا بِكُمْ لَفِيفًا, brought back as a motley crowd. At that time, جَعَلَهُ دَكَّا, Allah is going to bring down this barrier and it become dust. Now let's turn to the pictures and see whether we can locate. This is the Caucasus Mountains here, the white being the snow. And on the left side there is a body of water which is so dark and so murky with so much algae in it that it has been given a name. And that name has been there with it for many, many, many years. Even the time of Ibn Kathir. It's called the Black Sea. It's called the Black Sea. Why? Because it is so dark. If you go to the Mediterranean Sea and you're on a ship, you could see several meters underneath the water. But if you go to the Black Sea, you'd hardly be able to see more than 1 meter underneath the water. On this side of the Black Sea is the Caspian Sea. And in between the Caspian and the Black Sea is this body of land. So we say that Zulkarnain is traveling in that direction to the west, and then in this direction to the east. The Caucasus Mountains are an unbroken range of mountains from that end to this end. But in between the Caucasus Mountains there is one pass, only one, in between. It's called the Darya Gorge. Let's see if we have, here we are. There is the gorge, and there's one side, and there's the other side. And it's like an open shell. See, the Quran is describing this Sadafain. So we have, I believe, established for you the geographical location of Gog and Magog. The people who are located behind the barrier. Behind the barrier, on that side of the Caucasus, were the Khazar.